Is parkour recreational sport? Parkour is a unique physical activity that raises the questions of whether it should be classified as a sport or a recreational activity. This presentation explores the nature of parkour and its impact on the public and property owners related to a conflict theory and discusses the ongoing debate surrounding its categorization. So, what is parkour? Parkour is an art of motion that teaches spatial awareness of your body and the things around you, building strength to overcome physical and mental challenges by jumping around obstacles in the environment. It's primarily practiced in non-competitive settings, focusing on personal improvement rather than formal competition. I've chosen this topic because it's something that's not discussed very often and I feel like it should be more. It's also a very important topic for me because parkour is something that I'm very interested in and it's an activity that I regularly participate in. I have a YouTube channel with some of my friends that has 1,000 subscribers and we just go out every week and film our training sessions. Now, the impact of this issue, I would say, is quite big. The main issue being freedom of expression through parkour versus buildings and land ownership. Members of the public and property owners often have concerns about parkour due to its association with trespassing and potential property damage. Even though we, along with other parkour practitioners, emphasize the safety precautions we take and the years of training experience practicing these skills in safe places, the misunderstandings still persist. Now, of course, we acknowledge the possible risks and occasional injuries associated with parkour, like any other high-intensity activity. But we have a commitment to accountability and being honest, including paying for any damages when necessary and letting the owners of that area know. But people just still don't want you on their properties, which I guess is fair enough. But parkour's need for obstacles and unique training locations, often including private property, can lead to conflicts with property owners and the law. Some argue that if parkour is a sport, designated training areas should be provided, while others feel that restricting it diminishes the essence of the activity. Now, I believe both sides of this argument have valid concerns, but there's no easy solution that satisfies everyone. Not that I can think of anyway. But the fact that these things that parkour is associated with are illegal makes it difficult, because obviously you want to train and push yourself, but you can't really push the level you're at very far if you just do stuff at playgrounds or something like that. And that's a massive part of parkour, doing crazy tricks at crazy locations, and without doing that stuff, it just isn't the same. The question is parkour recreation or sport is actually a really tough question to answer because parkour can be viewed as a recreational activity aimed at self-improvement, both physically and mentally. However, there are also parkour competitions with rules, judges, time limits, suggesting a sports aspect. So it's difficult to define parkour as a whole due to its broad range of activities and variations. So I suppose more strict versions of parkour like Ultimate Chase Tag, for example, which has that sport element. But it's very hard to determine whether parkour as a whole is actually a sport. Something that I don't like is that you have to be sneaky when climbing buildings to complete challenges. I'd much rather just be able to do it without problems, but I know that can't happen for various reasons. And I know that when I'm doing that sort of stuff that I don't have any bad intentions, I just want to complete my challenge, nothing more. Now, I can't speak for everyone doing it, but I know most practitioners of parkour don't want to damage anything, and they'd be more than happy to pay damage costs if they did. So yeah, I do feel bad doing parkour when I know I shouldn't be there.
You see, it's so dodgy.
And I wish it was okay to do this stuff in designated areas or something, so there's no guilt when training. I mean, we've had police called on us a couple of times for doing parkour on roofs, and they didn't seem to mind too much.
Are you good at it?
Yeah, we
Do parkour sort of stuff?
They were mainly just concerned about us falling through skylights and hurting ourselves or damaging property. And they just took our details in case we needed to pay to fix anything. But besides that, they actually thought it was really cool. So just be careful, respectful, and honest, and don't do anything stupid if you have no experience. Parkour being associated with trespassing can be analyzed through the lens of this conflict theory. This conflict theory is a sociological perspective that looks at society as a collection of groups tied up in continuous power struggles over limited resources. It focuses on how social inequality, differences in power, and conflicting interests shape and maintain social order. In the context of parkour and trespassing, this conflict theory can help explain the dynamics between practitioners and property owners or authorities. Here's how it relates. The conflict theory highlights the unequal distribution of power in society. Property owners and authorities possess the power and control over private spaces, including buildings, rooftops, and other structures where parkour practitioners often train. They establish rules and regulations governing access to these spaces, which limits the freedom of parkour practitioners. The conflict theory also highlights how social inequalities contribute to conflicts. Parkour as a physical activity can attract individuals who may feel marginalized or excluded from mainstream sports or recreational activities. Some practitioners may engage in parkour as a form of resistance against societal norms or an expression of freedom. Trespassing in this context may be viewed as a response to the restricted access to urban spaces, highlighting the unequal distribution of resources and opportunities for physical expression. The conflict theory also looks at how power dynamics influence the control of public spaces. Parkour practitioners often look for different environments to practice their skills, such as abandoned buildings, construction sites, or urban landscapes. However, these places are almost always considered private property, and trespassing may occur when practitioners challenge the authorities' control over these spaces. This conflict appears due to differing perceptions of public space, where parkour practitioners view it as a resource for personal expression, while property owners prioritize private property rights. The conflict theory explores deviance and social control strategies. Trespassing for parkour can be seen as a deviant behavior, as it violates established norms and rules. Property owners and authorities, in response, come up with social control strategies to maintain order and protect their property rights. This could involve surveillance, security, or legal consequences for trespassers, reflecting the power struggles between parkour practitioners and those with authority over the spaces they use. Now, there isn't much of a solution for this issue at the moment, but this is what I would recommend as a good approach for both sides of the issue. For fellow parkour practitioners, I would advise that you would approach the activity responsibly with respect for property and people. And for the property owners or security, I'd recommend being kind because from what I've seen and experienced, the people doing parkour are far more likely to leave if you're kind to them as opposed to being rude. I also believe parkour athletes should take careful consideration of surfaces. And if you're asked to leave private property, it's best that you just leave straight away. And just be honest, if you break anything, let the person that owns the property know and pay for all damages that you've caused. It is their property after all. We're gonna have to tell someone about that.
We have a bit of a problem. Thanks for being honest about it.
If you ever break something doing parkour, just own up. Alright, so overall, parkour is a physically demanding, visually captivating activity that blurs the line between sport and recreation. There are potential dangers and legal issues associated with parkour. It's important to behave responsibly when practicing parkour, and to have accountability for any damage caused, and to follow the rules and regulations of private property owners. And it can also be related to the conflict theory to understand the power dynamics, social inequalities, and social strategies at play when parkour is associated with trespassing. This also highlights the conflicts arising from the limited access to urban spaces and the struggle between parkour practitioners and the property owners or authorities over the use of control of these spaces. While the debate over whether parkour is a sport or a recreational activity and all the issues associated with it continue, I still have a passion for the art of motion and the personal growth it offers. So, on the whole, from my current knowledge, I would say parkour is mainly recreational and somewhat a sport in some occasions. If parkour was truly a sport, it would be allowed to be trained in the desired locations, but instead, it's considered to be not allowed in a lot of these places. But it is growing in popularity, so maybe over time this will change, but I don't really see it being accepted on rooftops or private property. I mean, I guess you could ask permission from the owners to do parkour on that building or whatever, but I guess they're just protecting their buildings and stuff from being robbed, and they want to keep people safe, so that's fair enough. So yeah, from now on, I'm just going to do what I normally do if I'm doing parkour in a place I probably shouldn't be, and that is to follow all the key points I've mentioned in this video. And I'd advise that anyone else doing parkour would do the same. Thank you for watching.